On this week's episode of the Geek State, let's take a trip to a galaxy far, far away. And by far away, I mean Chicago for Star Wars Celebration.
We get introduced to Jedi Cal Kestis of Respawn's Fallen Order.
And of course, we'll break down the teaser trailer for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker and all the news from the upcoming Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian.
Also, and this is very important, do not try to strike me down, because I might actually be here and that would hurt. I also do have a security force with me, and at least one of them is a no-gree. Again, if you don't know what that means, why are you here?
Stand by alert.
This is it.
J.J. Abrams and the creative forces behind Game of Thrones have no idea this show exists. This is the Geek State.
Reporting from the outer reaches, this is the Geek State, the podcast about all the stuff that's going on in the world of geek. This episode specifically, we're diving into all of the news and all the... Well, there's a lot of news, but we're going to do the big stuff that caught our eye from Star Wars Celebration that just wrapped up in Chicago, Illinois. And I couldn't do this without my good buddy James. So, James, you've been watching the stuff. You're caught up, especially on the game stuff. Want to hear from you on all the cool stuff going on from the games.
We are caught up from what I know. I mean, who knows?
It's hard.
They did a lot where they cut away and only let people in the actual live audience see. So
I know.
I hope I'm caught up.
I know. There's so much, and it's really hard, to be big fans like we are and not be able to attend. I've been to Star Wars Celebration before. It's such a good time. The friends that you make, the friends that you get to see. I know I had a lot that were there, and I was living vicariously through their Twitter and Instagram and all of that. So big thank you to Josh and to my friend Rich. And to anybody else that I know in the Star Wars, and Sheldon, and various...
And your Chilean friends.
Yeah, and Christian. He met, everybody. I saw his posts. He met Ian McDermott and Hayden Christensen and Ahmed Best, and he did all the photo ops. It was amazing. So such a cool opportunity if you've never been to Star Wars Celebration. They are incredibly crowded nowadays. I feel extremely lucky. I went during a time that was sort of that in between, that really the only big things they had, which is not a dig at it at all, but at the time all there was Clone Wars, and that was the big draw that year. Though the year that I went, we had the panel for Star Wars Detours with Donald Faison and Seth Green. The show that had never aired because of the Lucasfilm acquisition took place. I saw Mark Hamill's panel when he did his little one-man show thing. And there was... And Star Wars 1313. I went to that panel. That's another game that we never saw. So excited to have another Star Wars video game on the horizon but kind of seems somewhat like a successor. It takes place different time. It takes place during pretty much the exact same time period. So excited to talk about that. So we've got the Star Wars title, the teaser trailer, the Mandalorian, the upcoming video game, like we said, and so much more. And basically, it's an all Star Wars show. There's no spoilers here, but I know some people online who are in some groups that I'm in. They're like, I don't want to know the title, and I was like, come on, guys, you need to leave the group. Because it's going to be unavoidable. It was the top trending item actually when they announced the trailer and the title of the film. The top 10 trending topics on Twitter were Star Wars Celebration, Star Wars, the Rise of Skywalker, Lando. It was just everything was Star Wars on Twitter, which was incredibly cool to see. But James, we're going to dive right in and hit up the very first big item. Of course, the show opened on Thursday, but it was basically a time to go buy things, stand in an incredibly long line just to buy merch. I know a lot of people stayed in line all day and then still didn't make it in. Huge disappointment and organization disaster, but they seem to have got it worked out a little bit better as the show progressed. But we're going to go right now to the Star Wars Episode 9 panel.
It's a universe. It's where we go to get lost, to get inspired, to feel understood, to feel like anything is possible. 40 years in, more expansive and diverse than ever any of us can imagine, being that young kid on Tatooine. About to take our first step into a larger world. I was once that kid. And on my best days, I still am. Of course, we're here today to talk about Episode 9, the movie that completes the Skywalker saga. So, let's get this thing started. It is my pleasure to introduce the president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, and the director of Episode 9, J.J. Abrams.
So what was cool, which I didn't know, James, and I know you didn't watch the panel because you were stuck at work, correct?
That is correct.
I remember I texted you the second they announced.
Stuck. I love that place.
You love that work, of course, and so do I. Except I took some time off to enjoy uninterrupted access to be able to watch the live stream, and I don't regret it at all. I did not know that Stephen Colbert was going to be the host of the Star Wars Episode 9 panel, so clearly I missed it, or they didn't make a big deal about it, but that was pretty cool. He's a longtime fan of Star Wars. He likes to boast that he is a Star Wars fan for 3 weeks longer than anybody else, because when he was a little kid, he won a radio contest and got to see Star Wars a little bit early, which was pretty cool, and kind of gives him some credit. He threw out some pre-scripted jokes that were to kind of claim his credibility. He threw out that his bodyguards were Nogri. Of course, laughter ensued. But what's frustrating but expected from anything related to J.J. Abrams was that they'd ask questions and he'd give the runaround, and basically, this is exciting, it's great, it's just so great to have in the cast. The cast is amazing.
If it's anything, it was anything like the game one. It was painfully scripted. Like it was hard to watch. What
was funny is, yes, it was so incredibly scripted, but they would have images, and because we've seen nothing from this movie, any image garnered gasps from the audience, and so JJ would be talking about filming in Jordan and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden a picture would go up on the screen and the audience would go nuts, and JJ would have to stop and look up, that's what we're talking about. From the celebrities standpoint, we had all the celebrities come out. Not everybody wasn't. Mark Hamill was absent. Kerry Russell wasn't there, some other folks as well, but we had Anthony Daniels come out and he did his shtick, and then Billy D comes out looking pretty good for his age. He did have his cane, but he had some really memorable moments. He when asked about betraying Han Solo all those years ago back in Empire Strikes Back,
and you have this kind of threat. Here's a guy chasing after Boba Fett's chasing after. I have to explain this stuff to people. I don't understand why.
You don't have to explain it to these people.
I get sick and tired of being accused of betraying Han Solo.
Never gonna live it down.
It's like first person singular. All of a sudden I'm talking about me instead of Lando Calrissian. But anyway, he was up against Darth Vader. He had to figure something out. By the way, did anybody die? Nobody died, right?
I was like, that's awesome. And then they brought out Daisy. They brought out John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Jonas, Kelly Marie Tran, and I'm leaving somebody out. Oh, BB-8 was there, of course, but he's a robot. And the newcomer, and I think I feel like I left somebody out, but maybe I didn't. But newcomer Naomi Aki, she came out. They gave us her character's name, which is Jana, and Stephen Colbert jumped right in and was like, "Hey, there's some rumors online. Are you Lando Calrissian's kid?" And
is your father on this stage?
Listen, Lando is a very charming man, so he could have children all over the universe. That's all I'm saying. Am I right?
It was obviously scripted, for him to ask that question, because, as the host, he had to get all that stuff, I'm sure pre-approved. But it was this weird kind of yes or no kind of answer, and what she gave us was what we'd expect, a non-answer. But her answer was more or less, I don't know. she was like, well, Lando probably has a lot of kids throughout the galaxy.
He is quite suave.
Indeed. It's that Colt 45 works every time. But
right.
it didn't make me think no. But it kind of makes me I didn't really ever consider that being a genuine rumor. But because they, and this doesn't mean anything, because when they announced Finn, they just said his name was Finn, and they didn't give him a last name because obviously he doesn't have one. But this is a little different. This was just Jana, and no last name, which could mean nothing. But it made me think, and I was kind of like, well, she didn't really say no to this, so we'll still have to kind of wait and see. I don't think I want her to be Lando's kid, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it would not add anything to it unless, I can't imagine. The only thing that I can even imagine that would lend to is if one or the other finds themselves in peril and the other one has to either risk themselves to save the other one. You know what I mean? Like, right. That's the only. But you could do that without them being father and daughter. So
absolutely
kind of ridiculous.
Unless Billy D's responding to the call for help, just a little late, and that's how he gets brought back into this mix. And there's something that they need. There's something that kind of like that code breaker thing, and he's like, I only know one person that I trust to get this job done, and right. Then smash cut to, going to light speed, and then they're landing, and they're having to look for her as, kind of a bit of a MacGuffin. BB-8's got a new friend. His name is Dio. It's a new little droid that they're going to make lots of toys out of. I honestly, I dig that it's a cool little droid, and it's got a unique design. Not as... I did not fall in love with this droid in the same way that I did when we first saw BB-8. I don't know if you echo that feeling at all, but
is this the droid that looks like Wall-E a little bit? Kind of like narrow face.
Yeah, it's kind of like
top.
cone head with a wheel, basically.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a duck. There's some of the concept art they showed up on screen showed a little sketch of a duck that they were trying to kind of mimic. So, it was like 45, 50 minutes in of basically them saying how much of a great time it was. It was really cool to see Kelly Marie Tran get the love that she deserves. She's a great actress. People may disagree on her character and how things, were done in the previous movie, but man, does she have a lot of passion and energy for what she does, and there was a standing ovation for her. It was awesome. But this wasn't at all what we were even waiting to see. I was for sure thinking they would show the teaser at the beginning, even though I know it's such a show closer, to kind of like
right.
wrap everything up with. I thought they would show something so that they could talk about something. But instead, we got an hour of almost nothing, kind of like the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge panel that really showed us nothing new. Everything they showed was previously released content. There was some like flyover kind of drone stuff. They showed that Coca-Cola will be served in the park, which, with the exception of the cool T-shirt that you got for going to that panel, which was it honestly had a cool logo. It's like Star Wars version of the Coke logo. That was like their big reveal.
Super exciting,
super pumped. We're not even gonna talk about Galaxy's Edge besides that, but I was just like, okay, nope, this was cool. I can't wait to go, and I understand why they can't show us footage from the rides and any of that stuff, because you have to actually experience that stuff for yourself. But we're here for the freaking teaser trailer, and we're gonna kind of overall reactions at the end. But I kind of, because there's only a few shots, James, let's kind of step through some of the stuff that we saw. We open with a desert planet with some rocky outcroppings. It's clearly Jordan where they filmed this at. And we've got our main character, Rey. She's out of breath. She's waiting for something. And what I noticed, too, is this is a pattern with all of the previous Star Wars teaser trailers. The first one for The Force Awakens, the one that dropped on Thanksgiving, had Finn in the desert.
Heavy breathing.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, what does this mean? It doesn't mean anything. I think they just noticed that the last two had it, and they thought, well, this is good symmetry. The Last Jedi started with that kind of what we thought was a star field, turned into a rock, and a collapsed Rey on top of it, heavy breathing. I don't know what this means. It means nothing.
It means everything.
It's like JJ knew that if he did something like that, he'd give people something to talk about. Well, we got Rey. She's in the desert, and you've all seen this thing before. We're waiting on. There's some beautiful shots. She pulls. Now we were texting right after this, and you mentioned something about Rey's lightsaber, and she's also got Han Solo's blaster, which I don't understand how she still has possession of that blaster, because she tried using it on Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens, and then he froze her in place, and they took her captive. So did they like baggage check her blaster so that she could like get it when they escaped?
They must have. I don't know, or maybe you know how they cut the scene out of Return of the Jedi of Luke rebuilding his lightsaber. So maybe there's a similar scene in this of her rebuilding that blaster.
Maybe she just lost
all the parts floating in front of her.
I'm thinking maybe she just jumped onto like whatever version of galactic eBay there is and is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I lost a blaster handed to me by Han Solo himself. I need to track this same thing down. So right. the possession of this blaster is a little bit questionable and up in the air, so we have to kind of just roll with it, I guess. But you picked up on something that I didn't while watching this, kind of having to do with the blaster's placement and where her lightsaber and all that.
Yeah. So it opens up, and the blaster and the lightsaber are on opposite sides, and she uses her right hand to grab the lightsaber from the left side of her body. Well, if that's the case, then you would also assume that the blaster would be picked up by her left hand from the right side of her body at some point. But when it does the close-up of the blaster, the handle is faced backwards, so she would have to use her dominant hand to get the blaster out of the holster, which makes no sense if you're wielding a lightsaber. So she would have to switch hands with the lightsaber or put it down or something to use her blaster.
So we're basically
very strange.
There's no dual wielding possible with this setup, really.
No, not really, unless she offhands the lightsaber. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was just a little strange that they would. I don't know. It's just not. They went form over function.
Yeah, well, we can confirm that the lightsaber is the lightsaber that belonged to Anakin Skywalker and Luke. There is, on closer inspection, some new black paneling around the midsection of this lightsaber. Because obviously in the Last Jedi, it got ripped in two. So she's at some point, whether off screen, I assume, has put it back together. Then we see what is a TIE interceptor. I saw a lot of people saying this was Kylo Ren's from the Last Jedi, and I don't know if that's just because they were reacting immediately after seeing it. Most likely, we've had the opportunity, to look at it more and more. That it's clearly not the same TIE fighter. It has the rounded, normal kind of the traditional TIE fighter cockpit. It's got some red paint on it. There's a lot of speculation and stuff out there about the red, some red stormtroopers, and possibly this is like another split off faction from the First Order that maybe Kylo breaks apart from it, or whoever's in that TIE fighter. We don't know if that's Kylo Ren. He just is, the guy's got black gloves, and that shot could be from another part of the movie.
And they're an excellent pilot. That's what because it's flying 6 inches off the ground.
No kidding, yeah. Incredibly close. Also of note, the TIE fighter is not firing at Rey. So if this is Kylo or a bad guy heading towards Rey, there's no reason for it just to try to run her over. They should be firing everything they've got, because they could have knocked her out of the sand, so incredibly easy. So then we see Rey literally skywalk. Does a flip. That's a bit of a stretch, but anyways, yeah, she does a little slow motion flip, which I never expected there to be a fans online upset that this had slow motion in it.
Yeah, that's strange. That's a weird thing to get upset about.
This isn't in Star Wars. This is not. This is not. You know what? Well, it is. There is some slow motion in Empire Strikes Back. Granted, it's during the cave sequence, in the Last Jedi. So I know some people are just like, "Oh, that movie never happened." During the fight with Luke Skywalker at the end, he does that kind of backbend. Turn with that saber flying over his face. That's in slow motion.
Also, spoiler alert, it may not be slow motion in the actual movie.
Exactly.
They might have slowed it down for the trailer to help pace the trailer.
And
like you don't want to have something happen 100 miles an hour in the beginning of your trailer.
Right.
It's like,
also, it may not even be in the movie. you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's true too.
Who knows? I mean, we just don't know. We get another shot after that thing, and of note, the title cards are echoes of the Phantom Menace's original teaser. We got Every Generation Has a Legend in both Phantom Menace and this one. And in the Phantom Menace version, it says every saga has a beginning, and this one said every saga has an end, which I thought was pretty cool. Little Easter egg there if you paid attention to all the marketing from previous years. Now this next shot shows a ship flying towards a city. And James, I just want to say I'm not actually watching the teaser. I've watched it so many times I have it memorized.
It's all from memory.
So if I mess up, forgive me, because I'm not actually going step by step through this. But we get a ship that's flying there's like a small outcropped city that's on some hills. And I don't know if this is intentional, but it does look like that ship is at least the same model of ship that drops Rey off on Jakku when she was a kid.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Because we only see the backs of both of those ships both times, and the engines are in the same place, the fins are in the same place, the proportions are all the same. They're very quick shots. We on our Twitter page posted a picture of it, but you can find it elsewhere. So if you want to see the side-by-side comparison, go to the Geek State Pod on Twitter and just kind of scroll through our timeline. We posted it there. So I don't know if that's supposed to make us think something. I assume just because JJ is the way he is, that is the case.
Next would be Kylo Ren running through the burning forest of sorts. With his lightsaber, and then doesn't use his lightsaber on this guy, but rather punches him in the stomach.
Kind of. I think you can see like one of those little the exhaust ports. Yeah, I think that's how he's got him kind of picked up.
Yeah, I see. I could see that. Okay,
everybody's saying that's one of the Knights of Ren. I don't think we know enough about them yet to know who they are, but we know it's somebody he's fighting against, and the forest is burning, and there's a stormtrooper. That's about it. And he's not wearing his helmet. So
yeah, no helmet, but we do see the helmet in a little bit in the next scene.
Yes, so we see some very furry hand. I didn't pick up on that right at the beginning. I thought, it's Kylo Ren and he's like rebuilding his helmet. But if you look at the hand, it's very furry. It's not Chewbacca. It's somebody else. But they're using what I assume is like Sith Gorilla Glue, because it's
some sort of soldering iron.
Right. And it's glowing red, putting back together his helmet, which again, another piece of Star Wars materials that I have no idea how they have that helmet. Because I'm assuming this is the broken helmet from The Last Jedi, which he broke, left it, and went away. Do you think like a stormtrooper just picks it up and is like, he might want this?
And all the pieces? It's like, well, it's got a little zip bag that he's putting all the pieces in.
It's got the little dustpan. He's like, don't mind me, sanitation stormtrooper here, just picking up all of Kylo's mess, just like I always do.
Yeah.
And then, James, I boasted that I had memorized, but now I've like really. Is this the shot of the sand with the speeder bikes and stuff, and there's a big explosions?
That's a no. This would be the next scene is a quick cut scene to Finn and Nathan Drake.
Right. I'm so excited that Uncharted is now part of the Star Wars universe. I like the look. I
do too. I think it's cool.
I pointed out James has a Nathan Drake cosplay that he's done many years ago, and I was like, hey, look, you got a Poe Dameron costume now. Like you can.
Yeah, I've got definitely the starts of one. Mm-hmm. Need to get some knee-high boots and some gloves, but we're pretty close.
Little details. And then next
would be this is a montage of quick shots. So is
this the Falcon?
Yeah. Well, the next shot is BB-8 and the and Dio, and then you have the Falcon with Billy D. Williams. Piloting next to Chewbacca.
Oh my gosh! Like the music, first of all, already had me. kind of was pulling at the heartstrings a little bit, because that's just kind of like what this Star Wars music will do to me. And then you get the exuberance of Billy D. Williams, which I was so scared he was going to be a hologram or something kind of like what Maz Kanata had in the last one.
Right.
But I was like, yes, he actually flies the Falcon. It made me think of the end of Solo, when it's like, I will get that ship back, and Han's like, over my dead body.
Yeah, it's true. It's
like,
awesome.
I was like, oh man. So now next we get the Mad Max sequence with the explosions. You'll notice there's some jet troopers flying through the sand. And then following that, we get a cool, I guess they're on some sort of skiff with Poe and Finn and C-3PO holding on for his life. Still no R2-D2 in this teaser.
No R2-D2,
Nothing.
Unfortunately.
I know.
He's got to make an appearance, though. There's just no way he doesn't. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, he was brought on stage. I'm sure he's in it. I'm really hoping that he has a moment where everything seems to be lost, that we don't know what's coming up, and he somehow has something in his back pocket that can save the day. So that's my hope. We get a quick shot of what I believe to be an A-wing crashing, then a pair of females' hands holding the medal from Yavin. So I'm assuming this is Han's, only because I can't imagine Luke holding on to stuff like this. Like
it makes sense.
The Jedi, the attachments to things. And then we have a lifted shot from The Force Awakens with a new background, but that's how we're going to get Carrie Fisher in this movie. So I'm assuming that for the rest of the film, for the Rise of Skywalker, she's going to have that kind of the same outfit that she had from the end of The Force Awakens. And we don't know how much she's going to be in the film. We do know that in the panel, they showed a picture of the forest planet, and this clearly looks like it's on that same forest planet. And JJ said that takes place at the beginning of the movie. So my guess is that we get some Carrie Fisher at the beginning, and that's probably potentially it. We do know that this is going to be an adventure story that takes the entire main cast on this adventure, which is great, especially since what we got in The Last Jedi was like how Empire Strikes Back was. Our main characters were all divided up, all doing their own thing. Now we're kind of all back together.
Some paths more interesting than others.
Yeah, maybe you could say that. Then we get kind of this really great shot that I've noticed a lot of people saying is their new wallpaper on their computer. It's a shot of Rey, Finn, Poe, Chewbacca, C-3PO, BB-8, and Dio. Still no R2-D2. Looking over a cliff at the ocean, and then we get a reverse shot, and it's the Death Star that has crashed into the ocean, and that's the end. That's the last thing we see. I gotta say, the first time I watched this, I wasn't 100% sure what that was. That I was like, I know it's important, and I kind of had to reverse it and was like, oh my gosh, we're going back to the Death Star. And the next thing, James, I didn't spoil it for you when I sent you the text message when the title was announced, I don't think. But did what followed catch you completely off guard?
It did, yeah. I would say it definitely did. Almost in a bad way. I don't want to be,
Sure.
I don't know how they're going to tie him, all of a sudden just tie him in. I'm sure they have it planned. I'm sure it's been planned for a while, but it's just kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, okay, like we're doing this.
I think it's cool. I think that they need to have if they do it in the right way, I'm hoping he's like a holocron, or there's, there is some precedent in recent Star Wars comics of Sith being able to, in a way, like possess objects. So maybe that's the case. This is most likely the second Death Star where he died, that maybe there's something that kind of is that's possessed, but my guess is most likely a holocron that they're seeking, or somebody is seeking, and they're trying to prevent it from being obtained. Not 100% sure, but when after Palpatine laughed, like on the live stream, when they cut back to the audience, like everybody had lost their mind. They had the lights on the stage turned red, and then Ian McDermott walked out on stage and told told them to roll it again, which was cool. The crowd went nuts once more, and that's the teaser trailer for Star Wars: The Force. It's not the name of the movie. It's Star Wars. It's so hard to do that. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. It's going to take a while for those words to become so easily accessible by my brain, I think.
Right. You're just not used to it yet.
Which T-Ross, if you shorten it up.
A lot of people are. It appears people are very hit and miss on the title, which I really don't care what the movie's called. It could be called Star Wars: The Last One or Star Wars. Whatever, it's like that means literally less than nothing to me. So
well, and what's neat is it doesn't tell you much. It doesn't give anything away. It asks a lot of questions, which is very JJ. And everybody's reactions to Star Wars titles have always been very mixed. Like when Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and The Last Jedi. Like, what does this mean? What does this possibly mean? So I anticipate there being a lot to talk about. I do know there was a little bit of a press junket following. JJ said that yes, indeed, Ian McDermott is in this movie as Palpatine. That he was so excited that secret was kept, that Ian's presence on the set never leaked prior to them getting to show this teaser,
right?
Which is pretty cool. I think I'm excited to see how they kind of work it is, because really the saga is, it's the Skywalker story, but everything began with the machinations of Palpatine. They all begin with him. He's the Phantom Menace, and it looks like we're going to get some sort of grand, at least be part of that closing statement to this, Star Wars saga. So pretty pumped about that. Definitely want to hear what people think over on Twitter or on Facebook. Send us a message.
It wasn't always like this. But now, there are 3 rules to survive. Don't stand out. Accept the past. Trust no one.
Bring it in.
Trust only in the Force.
And then James, I know this is what you were looking forward to the most. Let's talk about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. What can you tell us about what this game's going to be like?
Yeah, so on Saturday, Respawn did have a panel for this. We did learn a little bit about the game. It was kind of similar to the episode 9 panel, where it was just kind of a lot of questions that they didn't answer. It was very scripted, but we did learn a little bit about the game. It is a 100% single-player game, combat-focused.
Yes.
You play as Cal Kestis, who is voiced by Gotham's Cameron Monaghan. Or Monahan, I guess.
Think,
yeah, Monahan, who I think plays the Joker. Is that right?
Yeah, he plays the Joker on that.
Yep. So he is a Jedi in training who manages to escape Order 66 and is on the run / kind of keeping his identity secret. There is a new group of troopers. They're elite stormtroopers called Purge Troopers, and they're essentially supposed to find Jedi and then let Inquisitors know, and then the Inquisitors come to deal with them, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the Inquisitors. I didn't watch too much of Rebels, which is where they were kind of brought in, right, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and we're actually getting the Inquisitor we see on screen in that trailer, which is, I think, an awesome trailer. They showed a lot without showing a whole, too much. But we get these, what's called, her name is the Second Sister.
Right.
And that's voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah, so
interesting.
there you go.
Okay, yeah, and she essentially the everything gets rolling. He's works in some sort of fashion of a junker, kind of breaking down Imperial ships and things like that, and it appears that there's a work incident in which he saves a friend using the Force, is what kind of they made it appear to be, and then kind of goes on the run from there. It looks, I mean, I didn't like that they showed literally zero gameplay footage, which is fine. I assume they're saving that for E3. But
Yeah,
with
that's
the
a fair
game that's
guess.
coming out in November, you'd like to see some gameplay footage. So
I'm
but that is
assuming
another piece that is coming out this year, which I didn't think it was, but I guess they've been working on it longer than they let on E3 last year.
Yeah.
E3 last year, they were like, "We're working on a game, and here's the title card," and you're like, "Okay, well, this is coming out in 20 never."
well, with the track record like EA's had on some other projects, that was kind of what people thought. But it's coming out November 15th, and that's gonna be an incredible week because that's also the week that we get the launch of Disney Plus. Something that just before we wrap up on the game, first of all, I'm extremely excited that it's single player, that it's gonna be a story, that it's canon. It takes place right after Episode 3, clearly because with the whole Order 66 purge. But then as I was watching it, this little fear that I had, which later got squashed, thankfully, I was like, oh, do I have to play a character that has to like sneak around? Because the one type of game that's single player that I absolutely hate is like any kind of stealth mission.
Yeah.
Like, anytime I'm like, oh, don't make a noise, and then you die. Like there's a level in one of the Uncharted where like you're trying to sneak around and stuff. And I got stuck there and I never finished the game.
Just never went back.
No.
Yeah, I've definitely run into those before. I think I know the one you're talking about, and I literally watched somebody do it on YouTube and then just followed their steps step by step to get through the thing without being spotted. But yeah, it doesn't appear that there's going to be that. It doesn't appear that that's going to be the whole game by any means. I mean, this is a combat focused game. We did find that the kind of the relic that was on that title card is a lightsaber.
Yep. Looks like Cal takes it.
Yeah, Cal takes it, but I don't believe that it is Cal's. It definitely looks aged.
I agree.
Quite a bit. So I think that it's a relic of the past that he somehow gets a hold of. I'm not a huge fan. I mean, this is super nitpicky, but I'm not a huge fan of the character design of Cal. I mean, it's just kind of. I feel like that they didn't have any discerning characteristics for him, so they made his hair bright orange, which was a little.
It's kind of his Cameron's. I think they tried to make it as close they could to the actor.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get that, but it was just kind of, I don't know, it just...
Like the Sam Witwer approach for the Force Unleashed.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, it just kind of caught me off guard, cause kind of more of the grays and the burnt oranges and things like that, and then there's just this bright hair, and I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, what's going on?
But the Purge Troopers look pretty cool.
I agree.
I think that they've kind of created those because you can't really have a Jedi against stormtroopers. It needs to be a ton of them, and that can get boring pretty quick, I'm sure. So they wanted to be able to set up some pretty epic one-on-one battles, I bet. And my biggest fear for this is I hope it is not one of those action games where the best parts you don't play.
Where you're watching everything.
All the cinema or all the movie was the cutscenes,
right?
Or
very
all the
cinematic.
trailer was cutscenes, and it was a lot of action pieces, and it's kind of like I hope I get to do that, So
I'm sure you will. The tagline is become a Jedi. So I'm sure they're hoping that when you play this game, kind of like when you played The Force Unleashed, that you're like, gosh, this kind of rocks, like being able to pick up a stormtrooper and throw him across the room.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see what it is.
For sure.
I believe one of the producers on it is also one of the producers from the original God of War series, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. We'll see. I'll definitely be buying it, but I really do want to see some gameplay footage just to better understand what's going on, because they did not get into how it plays or what you're able to do, really. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. Well, that comes out November 15th, but a few days earlier, Disney Plus is going to launch, and one of those launch titles will be The Mandalorian.
And then I came in. I have been working on this idea for a long time because it was really compelling to me what happens after the celebration of the Empire falling, the revolution successful, and then what happens?
Now what?
Because if you look throughout history, it's fun at first, but it gets very complicated very quickly.
This was an interesting panel because every other panel up to this point, they had been showing the live stream audience everything that the in the Winchester Arena saw. We got to see as well, and this was when they were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to cut away," and it was like the Mandalorian will return, and it was so incredibly frustrating because yes, I get it. You paid for this conference, and you should get the privilege of seeing stuff. Someone pointed out on Twitter that you can clearly tell that the Disney Plus marketing team is different because they probably are the ones that said, "Oh no, don't show this stuff yet. We're gonna have a big Disney Plus launch, to talk about it, and this material we're gonna save for that." But what we did get to see was we had Dave Filoni on stage. We had Jon Favreau, who is those are the executive producers. This is sort of the brainchild from Jon Favreau. For fans of the Clone Wars, you'll know that Jon Favreau also played Pre Vizsla, who is a Mandalorian on the Clone Wars. So he's had some history with this race and with this type of character, and it's pretty cool. We got introduced to all the actors who came on stage. We got Pedro Pascal. He's the main character, just known as the Mandalorian. We had Gina Carano. I don't know. Yeah, she was in Deadpool, right? She was in the Deadpool 2, maybe.
I think she was, and she also used to be an MMA fighter.
That makes so much sense because she kind of has that physicality, like, oh, she could probably beat me up.
Yeah, she definitely could. 100%.
She plays a character named Cara Dune, who is, I guess, now a bounty hunter, works in that same kind of field with the Mandalorian. She's a former Imperial shock trooper. So those are the guys that picked up burning Anakin Skywalker on the with the red stuff on him. And then we have Carl Weathers, who I believe
you got a stew going.
Yeah, Carl Weathers. He's wasn't he in like in the original Predator or like the second one or?
He was in the original Predator. Also Apollo Creed. Most recently,
clearly his more famous role.
Yeah, he was also in the Arrested Development for a while. He was Tobias Fluke's acting teacher.
That's right. He plays a character named Grief, who is like kind of the head of the Bounty Hunters Guild. He's passing out, basically, jobs to people. And there was a variety of other folks. Werner Herzog made an appearance in one of the clips they showed. So we got treated to some stuff if you watch the live stream, talking about the characters, talking about how cool it was. They grew up with Star Wars, now they're getting to make it, which is awesome, dream come true. One of the things I thought was neat was they started talking about, wouldn't it be cool if one or two of our shots in this show were done in the way they did it back in 77, like with models of the ship? They thought maybe we can do one or two. And then they started talking, and the rest of Industrial Light and Magic started hearing that they wanted to do models. And some of the guys that work at Industrial Light and Magic started 3D printing and designing these models at home in their garage. And they even hand built a reproduction of the like motion capture equipment. No, not motion camera, the camera control stuff. Where gosh, I can't think of the name, but it's where the camera does the same thing over and over again. And so in these shots that we got to see, they filmed the spaceship. So the Mandalorian ship's called the Razor Crest, which is this kind of metallic looking, Firefly-esque, ship. And so they filmed all this stuff physically, like with actual models. Which is, it's okay to use CG, guys. You can do it really well, but I thought it was really cool that they are doing some of this stuff in as much as they can in camera. That really kind of helps, I think, seal that 1977 original Star Wars stuff. Now, we were not treated to a 7-minute scene from the show. We had to go online elsewhere to get that. But in that clip, which if you cannot find it, maybe Disney is already taking it down, but at time of recording, we still had it. And it's the Mandalorian with Griff picking up jobs, finds out that all the jobs he's got available don't pay that much, and he knows of one other job. It's a very difficult job, but pays a lot.
This is Dr. Pershing. Please excuse his lack of decorum. His enthusiasm outweighs his discretion. Please lower your blaster.
Have them lower theirs first.
We have you 4-1.
I like those odds.
He takes up that job, goes out, finds the guy. There's stormtroopers, and it makes me... I never really thought about this, but I'm like, this is 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. So this is... I guess what we're seeing is the Imperial remnant the people that are trying to hold on to whatever power that they have.
Right.
It's my only explanation, because we've just had, 5 years previous, the explosion of the second Death Star, which I assume it's not like the Death Star blows up and the Empire's like, well,
that's good game, guys.
We did good. Let's go get our snow cones and head home.
We had a good run, didn't we?
Exactly. So that was a pretty cool scene. Very, very epic. Very cinematic, I thought. Then at the end of that 7-minute clip, we got some kind of sizzle, little clips of the Mandalorian kicking butt, using his blaster to do. He's like, he can stun somebody. He uses the butt of his blaster to shatter a stormtrooper's helmet, which is pretty badass. We saw some
somebody has a shoulder cannon.
Yes. I think that was cool. I thought that was super cool. That reminded me of like some like action figure that would have, came out that was not ever in the movie, but it was like, just one of those like Shadows of the Empire type of things. We saw IG-88. We saw a flame trooper from the Force Unleashed game, which was neat, because I'm like, I've got that action figure. That's so cool. We also see the cantina. Now I have to assume, because it looks exactly like the cantina from A New Hope. It has to be that the bartenders are droids. So that kind of tells you like, hey, stuff has changed. Droids are either welcome there, or they're just the slave employees of this establishment. Either that, or this cantina is some sort of franchise. It's like the Chili's, they just got them. They all look the same everywhere. That was pretty cool. We also got a behind-the-scenes little featurette showing off the directors, some behind-the-scenes action. Showed, like Bryce Dallas Howard's in it. Taika, the guy that did the Thor Ragnarok and was the original guy in What We Do in the Shadows, et cetera, et cetera. He's doing some cool stuff. We saw a Deveronian. So we basically saw this really cool stuff, but one thing that stood out to me and I got the most weirdly excited for is this. There's a little creature, and he's riding on the back of like a lizard creature that's got 2 legs, and I was like, holy crap, they brought a creature back from the Caravan of Courage Ewok movie. Like,
is that what that's from?
Yes.
You're one of 12 people who saw that movie, so
which is available on Amazon. You can now buy that movie on Amazon, James. You can buy both Caravan of Courage and The Battle for Endor. So I
think I did see those. I think I rented those when I was a little kid. I remember nothing about them.
You probably go pick them up at your family video.
They might have that actually.
It did get a video release on DVD, so
I'll have to ask them next time I'm in.
Exactly.
They seem to usually know what they have in stock.
They got 8 movies. So, anyways, I after seeing all this stuff, I'm excited for Episode 9. I'm excited for, obviously for the Rise of Skywalker, but a little something in me was like, I am now very excited for The Mandalorian. Like, this is so incredibly cool. I'm so pumped for this. And it's going to launch when Disney Plus launches November 12th. Just a thing of note, also coming soon on Disney Plus is the 6th season officially of Star Wars The Clone Wars. There will be 3 distinct arcs made up of 4 episodes each for a total of 12 episodes. We saw a little trailer for what's to come. We're going to get the Siege of Mandalore. It's awesome. Very heavy on Ahsoka. It seems like every one of those arcs is about her. And it even shows how Ahsoka gets her white lightsabers. They're a gift from Anakin, which I thought was pretty cool. But it was already we already knew this because if you read the Ahsoka book, it talks about the Siege of Mandalore and kind of the background and all of that. But it was cool to see it. And then lastly, related to Ahsoka, James and I were both watching the live stream when actress Ashley Eckstein was given by the Disney Parks crew a pair of Ahsoka's lightsabers. And James, they were the girthiest.
Yeah, they were not. They did not appear to be form-fitting. Like, they were huge. They were like bigger than the handle of a Maglite.
I was just gonna say it's like those giant Maglites that like security guards carry around, but I think even bigger than that.
But the width of the light bulb part, not the handle.
Right, just the hilt.
Yeah. It was awful. I mean, and honestly, I mean, they look cheap to me. I was just kind of like, oh, okay, those are cool. Like they maybe from a distance they'd be fine, but like when they did a close up of like the case that they come in and then they're definitely made to be mass produced.
Either that or they were made very specifically for just a fun little presentation and they were like 3D printed or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I will say, if I could live every moment like how Ashley Eckstein gets excited for things, I would be so incredibly happy because she is excited about literally everything that ever crosses her path, especially when it has to do with Ahsoka. I think that's pretty awesome. There was a lot of other stuff that happened. There was all kinds of crazy panels. The podcasting stage was awesome. I saw some great photos from the Techno Retro Dads and the rest of the Retro Zap team. They had a podcast meetup. It looked massive. Congrats to you guys. And I hope everybody at Star Wars Celebration had a great time. If you happen to pick up some of those lapel pins, maybe you were collecting them and you got some duplicates, because I think there was it was so like blind bag kind of a thing, and you're like, man, who would like some pins? I love pins. I have a huge collection. So just hit me up. I'll pay for shipping and stuff. So just send me a link or something, or a DM on Twitter or Facebook. I'm not desperate at all. I think it'd be pretty cool. Or if you got one of those Coca-Cola shirts, that is pretty cool too. Size large. Thank you very much. James, let's do our pick of the week.
Let's look around the region and take our pick of the week.
Shut up and take my money.
And for pick of the week, what's the one thing that came out of Star Wars Celebration that you're most looking forward to?
I mean, I just love those special edition Funko Pops with the blue. I'm just kidding. They did have some special edition Celebration Funko Pops though that had they were blue chrome. They were called the guy called them the Blue Harvest Edition.
Yes.
But anywho, I mean, I would probably say out of everything that I've seen, what am I most excited for is Mandalorian or the Mandalorian. Yes. I would say, because
that's surprising me actually.
I am excited for the game, but I didn't see what I wanted to see from the game. So I'm kind of like, okay, I saw cinematics of the game. So it's like, that doesn't tell me anything about it. That tells me that it has a story, which they were playing to their crowd. Their crowd at Star Wars Celebration probably put story ahead of gameplay. But yes. I'm kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum, where I want it to play well. So I just wanted to see more of that. And then for episode 9, I'm gonna go see it anyway. It doesn't really matter. Like we got so little information. I mean, it was the seeing Billy D. Williams was cool. Seeing or hearing Ian McDermott was cool, but it's just kind of like, okay, like
very true.
40% of that trailer was Rey standing still. So. It's like, whatever.
That's true. I'm gonna be boring and also pick The Mandalorian. I went in knowing that I thought it was going to be awesome, that I'm expecting something great. I think it delivered. I think it's going to be something that has the world's going to be big, but I think it's going to feel small. I think it's going to tackle things on we're going to get to know these characters really well. But seeing all of the legacy Star Wars stuff, knowing that you got Dave and John, makes me think really that maybe they should get to do some more stuff, that maybe give Dave Filoni a movie. It's about freaking time that he gets his own movie. I think he's shown his chops in this live action stuff. So when they get back around to making movies, the other thing was some Funko stuff. I did pre-order from Walgreens, the Darth Maul show exclusive. And then I'm going to have to wait till I go visit Galaxy's Edge, because they're going to make a Rex, the DJ Rex, the original pilot from Star Tours, a Funko Pop, and he's going to be a park exclusive. So I'm either going to have to go there just to get it, or really be nice to my friends that are going this July. So probably the latter. So
that'll get you there, get it sooner, I would assume.
I think so, before they sell out. Right. I'm excited to know what everybody else is excited about, what's coming up with Star Wars and what we saw at Star Wars Celebration. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. We're at The Geek State Pod. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/The Geek State. Hit us up on Instagram as well. Follow along. I post some funny stuff. Some stuff is just a straight up ad for the show. But I picked up some cool new Transformers that I'm going to post up there on the feed as well. So definitely go and check us out. We're The Geek State Podcast. And so from everyone else here at The Geek State, stay excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.
Theys who usually have other things, but then now they have a new one. This is going to be so much more exciting when we can use nouns.
good thing we multi-track this. I can cut out your sneezes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Well.
My goodness. Yeah, it's not still doesn't compare with my last episode burp. That
was pretty great.
Ridiculous.
It's incredible.
I did not save that. I was like, deleted.
Yeah, that's what the fans are losing something. You having full control like this.